Jimmie Johnson has joined us, and he's our 5-time NASCAR Sprint Cup Series champion. Just won his second straight Sprint All-Star race last Saturday night here under the lights at Charlotte Motor Speedway. This weekend he's driving the number 48 Lowe's Patriotic Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. And Jimmie, certainly coming off a very strong performance at the All-Star race, must bode well for you on Sunday here at Charlotte.
It does. The longest run we had was 20 laps, so we feel like we've got a good direction, but we still need to get out in Saturday's practice session and work on the car balance for a full run. And in our situation, we won't be able to have our All-Star car here to race this weekend. It doesn't get released from the tech center until end of Tuesday, and then to check in today, there's just not enough time to turn the car around. So we have a lot to work from, but it's still a new weekend, and race is much different than before, but we feel like we have a good direction, and we'll see where things stack up at the end of the night on Sunday.
I will take some questions. Let's start with let's go over here to Brian, Woody, and Doug, right down the row there.
Brian Nelson, Motor Racing Network. Jimmie, last night at the Hall of Fame, we were kind of debating about whether this might be the greatest era of NASCAR competition, considering parity in the sport and the number of future Hall of Famers that are racing now. But out of that, I'm wondering how you can decide whether one era might be better than the other. How do you judge and stack yourself up and Jeff and those that you race with against the guys that raced 50 years ago?
That's a great question, and I don't think there is an answer. And I think that's what leads to great conversation, debate, harassment amongst friends that think a different driver from a different generation was better. I mean, that's a great topic of discussion, and I don't know how you do it. I mean, you can look at stats, but there's just a different world for a lot of reasons. So I think it's the same way when you look at a lot of other pro sports. It's very difficult to pick one. And stats kind of tell the tale at the end of the day. But we would all love to see. And it wouldn't be possible, but the greatest baseball game with all the Hall of Famers on the field, on both teams, and see who had what. Same with football. And if we could get Petty in his prime, Earnhardt in his prime, David Pearson, Cale Yarborough, Bobby Allison, Jeff Gordon, and you just go on down the list, that'd be an awesome race. but we can't do that, so we just have the questions and the conversations, which are great, and I'm glad we have those conversations in our sport.
All right, let's go to Woody and then to Doug.
Woody Kane with MRN. Jimmie, Brad was talking a little bit earlier about, even though it's a lot longer and you got to survive to get that far, how Sunday might be kind of similar to the All-Star race in that whoever can get up front after that last pit stop is going to really have an advantage if you can get out front and get some clean air. How do you feel about the end of the 600 coming up?
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and I think it's kind of par for the course on tracks without a lot of tire fall off or tire wear. The clean air is more of an advantage than abusing. You have more an advantage in that situation, even if you are abusing your tires and you can hang on. So I think a 10-lap shootout, a guaranteed 10-lap shootout, changes the game a little bit. We'll be hopefully coming in after a 40, 50-lap run, running on old tires to the finish, and maybe there's a little different scenario at that point in time. But I don't disagree that opportunity could be here, especially if it's a short run to the finish.
Go to Doug and then to Lee. Go, Doug.
Doug Rice, PRN. Jimmie, this Sunday, Memorial Day weekend, there'll be a huge military presence here at Charlotte Motor Speedway, and there's always a lot of pageantry to go along with that. Your thoughts about Memorial Day and what it means to Jimmie Johnson?
Well, it's awesome to be a part of it and to be a source of entertainment and to pay our respects as a race team. And we usually have an awesome paint job on our race cars. So to be a part of it and to say thank you means a lot to Lowe's, myself, and our race team. And then from a race fan's perspective, Sunday is the greatest day ever. I mean, you have Monaco Grand Prix right into the 500 and then right into the 600. So I don't miss not racing, but sitting on the couch watching all that, I do have fond memories of watching a full day of racing.
Let's go to Lee and then to Marty Smith. Go, Lee.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. Congratulations on last week.
Thank you.
I talked a little bit to Doug Dukart. He said you guys haven't decided where you're going to do your test yet this season. Is there someplace in particular that you believe you need to test more than somewhere else with a new car?
For me, I think Phoenix is the big question mark. We finished second there in the spring, but we didn't have the confidence in the race weekend that we wanted to. We raced better than we expected to, and then finished better than we thought we would. So, from the 48 standpoint, I think that's probably the hottest track in our mind. But with the testing format as it is, it might not play out that way. So we'll have to see. Luckily all the cars are running good, and we're able to sit on our test sessions right now and try to use them in the best manner possible. Hopefully on chase tracks, that would be the ideal situation. But as we get through the summer and we see if we have a teammate that's near that cutoff point, and we need to get stronger at a regular season racetrack, we can have that strategy in play then too. Yep.
Go Marty Smith, David Caravello, Mike Solardi. Go ahead, Marty.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Jimmie, I've asked a few people today, your peers, to describe your career, and more than one have said greatest of all time. How would you describe your career knowing your peers feel that way?
Wow. I don't know how to quite respond to that. I am honored that they have mentioned me in that way. I just don't pay that much attention to it all. And it's very difficult to think about where I fit in while I'm still racing. I think of drivers' careers ending mid-40s, probably now on average, if not later. I still have 10 years or so to even think about that or worry about that. So to be recognized and thought of, and even in the conversation of the Pettys, Earnhardts, Gordon, all those guys, it is a huge compliment. I'm very, very proud to have, but I'm proud to be a part of that conversation. But I haven't thought much about it.
David Caravello, Mike Solardi, and then David Newton.
David Caravello, NASCAR.com. You mentioned earlier about not driving the All-Star car this weekend. Was that ever an option or a hope, or did you know you weren't going to get it back in time?
Well, if you don't go to the tech center following the race, you have that option. You can turn your car around. But we had a great problem. We won, and we weren't getting our car back for a couple days. So in the old days, before the cars would come home with us and they wouldn't go to the tech center until Tuesday, we always would ask ourselves a question, even if we didn't win, do we want to turn this car around and use it? And when we won here and it didn't go to the tech center, we brought that car back. It was just, where your gaps are, and at that time it was the valance, but now it's the splitter, and those heights are so critical that you'll waste 2 or 3 runs on a new tire today, and where you could use those runs to really fine-tune your race car. So you'd much rather bring that car back, I think, in today's world. Yeah, ideally we would, for sure.
Mike Solardi, and due to time, final question with David Newton. Go ahead, Mike.
Jimmie, Mike Solardi, News 14, Carolina. You've won this race before the 600. You know the razor-thin line of what it takes to win it and how hard it is to win it, and the margin for error is so thin. How difficult or demanding on a driver is it when you've got to physically wrestle the car around, but also keep in the back of your mind, one small mistake and we could put ourselves from striking distance to back of the field in the blink of an eye?
It is a fine balance, and not only is it important for the driver, but it's also the teams. And I think the All-Star race was a great example of how important that last pit stop is. So you get the driver who's been out there and potentially fatigued. You have a team that's been up and at it early, setting up a pit, doing pit stops all day long. It's late in the night. You come down that last pit stop, who has it in the tank, not only the energy, but the hand-eye coordination and ability to not make a mistake. In today's world of racing, when you pull in a victory lane, sure, the driver gets most of the credit for the job done, but it is such a team sport, and there's just as much riding on the success of the car, on pit road and what happens there as there is out on the racetrack.
Final question, David Newton.
Yeah, Jimmie, David Newton, ESPN.com. A.J. Allmendinger, obviously, 5th qualifying for Indy. He's just, I guess, 15th to 20th place driver in the Sprint Cup garage. Do you think that if you go to Indy, top driver in the garage, that you'd be a contender right away?
I don't think so. I think that we all develop into drivers that the driver we become is a product of what we grew up in. And I think my off-road days and the vehicles I raced helped lead me to NASCAR and worked very well. I didn't grow up in karts. I didn't run any. I've never been in an open-wheel vehicle, a formula-style vehicle. And they just drive differently. And AJ was on top of his game in IndyCar before he came to NASCAR, and then had to relearn. And I think his venture into NASCAR is a good example of probably what would happen if a driver went from NASCAR to IndyCar. It takes time. So if I just left, and tried next year and tested a couple times and went, I wouldn't be where Dinger is. And I think he's doing an amazing job, and would love to see him win that thing.
Jimmie, before we let you go, certainly something that's very, very important is the Helmet of Hope, a charitable initiative that you and Shanny have with the Jimmie Johnson Foundation. If you want to pull out a couple of names there for some of these charities, I believe these are media charities, and so go ahead.
Yes, we once again, I want to thank Blue Bunny for sponsoring the Helmet of Hope. We have all of the fan winners and their charities on the helmet now, and these final two are for the media. So thank you for getting your charities in, and the first one is 3. Larry Sprinkle, NBC Charlotte. The Humane Society of Charlotte saved thousands of, actually 3,400 lives, dogs and cats, and the organization also works tirelessly to make sure that every one of their sheltered animals finds a special home. So his is the Humane Society of Charlotte. And then the final, 7. Is that really his last name? Does anybody know?
Yes,
It is?
yes.
I've always wondered when I watch him in the morning. Encompass Early Education and Care was nominated by Jay Pfeffer. Is that the right way to pronounce it? Pfeffer? NASCAR Illustrated. They provide early education to families throughout his hometown in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Thanks to a sliding scale tuition, Encompass makes this invaluable service available to everyone, not just the families that can afford it. So, thank you, Jay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you, everybody.
Jimmie. Thank you for that initiative that you have, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you. Happy birthday.